Hi, and welcome back to my codependent workshop. This is workshop 2, and I wanted to come into this workshop a little differently than the last time. And the way that I want to come into it this time is, how are you showing up for this time for yourself? So there is the concept of being present. And when we have codependent tendencies, we tend not to be very present. We're always like anticipating or reading another person's energy or cueing into what someone else around us might need or what's happening to them. And then where's the focus? It's all external and not internal. So I want you to notice when you're coming into this workshop today, where's your mind and what do you want to get from this? Like maybe write a few things down for yourself. This this recording will also be important for you to stop and pause and listen to some of the things again, or to jot some things down, because I'm going to be asking questions throughout this time to you. I really want you to think about your own situation. And so you'll notice that my workshop has 3 parts. And basically, the first part is just how you show up, how you listen, how you get to know yourself, and what information can you take in neutrally instead of judgmentally, through the screen of what might people think of me, or is this proving a narrative, my narrative, that my relationship's bad, or I'm not doing enough to make it work, or the other person, or the story that we get caught up in that really disconnects us from ourselves. So that's the first part. And the second part is the complexities of unplugging yourself from another person or another focus and bringing that attention back onto yourself. How do you do that? What's scary about that? Where did you learn that? It's sort of the 3 elements of looking at your childhood, looking at your shadows, and then looking at your boundaries, and really understanding different ways of thinking about this, reframing it, and skills to develop. And then the third part is just looking at the people that you're in relationship with, and sort of assessing like their capacity. And it's not so much sort of projecting on like they're just not incapable of connecting with me, but maybe they have sensitivities too. Maybe they're limited in their own emotional development. And then to turn it back onto yourself, like how can I analyze the things in myself that I need to work on. A lot of times, if our focus is on another person, we've got a whole story going on that we're projecting onto them, that we're feeling like they're projecting onto us. And it takes us away from ourselves. So getting to know yourself and practicing just separating a little bit when you're in that immersion with the person that you're trying to unplug from. There's an immersion, right? There's an enmeshment. And to unplug from that helps you see yourself better and helps you see the other person better. And then from there, maybe you can practice your not being reactive, but being responsive, to slow down, check in with yourself, and then see some of the reoccurring patterns that aren't healthy for you. So I wanted people to really look at and be able to find a solid sense of themselves when they're interacting with another person, and identifying like maybe there is a thought or hope that things will be different if you just figure out how to make them different. And what I'm asking everyone in the group to do today is to really keep the focus on you and your own self-knowledge and trying to grow from there. So that's basically my talk today. I hope you enjoy it. And please don't hesitate to contact me with any thoughts about the content or things that you might want to learn more about in terms of codependency and having healthy relationships. Bye for now and enjoy. Some of the important things I wanted to review with you was firstly just showing up here, showing up to yourself, and trying to practice new behavior. So instead of showing up to a situation or conversation with everything going on in your head, like projection, what are they thinking about me? This is my story about them. This is my story about the situation. I'm getting gaslighted. I don't know what's true. Instead of going into that story, or note when you are in that headspace and story that you are not present right? You are not present. You cannot read the situation correctly. It is going to feel like it's dangerous and unsafe because you're not present. You're not here in your body. So I want to give you a few tips just to review like how to deal with that moment of noticing that you're all mixed up. Okay, so there's only this moment, right? Right here, right now, you and I together here on the screen. There's only this moment. Now, you could be distracted by the noises around you or what you have to do next, or even, I don't even want to listen to this. I know this stuff. You could be doing that right now, or you could give yourself something by just actually being here right now in this moment. And it makes a difference of how you show up. And I think if it's a reframe of you're actually giving that to yourself, the quieting the mind, the really listening to what someone is saying, the really checking in with yourself and feeling and identifying your feelings, that's what you're giving yourself. And that's one of the places that you're going to break the pattern is by really showing up in a different way. So there's a few things I want to talk to you about in terms of showing up, which is there's a trance state that happens when we're upset, and it feels like we've been here before, but it feels very similar, maybe feels a little triggery. Maybe we get hypervigilant at that moment. But I really want you to know what you do when you're in your trance state. Like, I've been here before, this is ineffective, I'm activated. What's yours? Do you know it? Have you been able to, oh, that's when I do that? Have you been able to stop yourself and see? Have you gone further than that and explained that to another person that you're with that might be helpful in that moment? So slowing down and being really present, all we have is right here, right now, in this moment. Can you feel your body? Can you slow down your mind? And you can always go to your breath. You can always breathe a few breaths. I always am, when I'm breathing, I'm always reminding myself, oh, there's my lungs, right? And I'm filling them up with air. And I'm just doing it in this moment and recognizing it in this moment. Although I do it all day long and I don't really note it, but I'm noting it right now for myself. Here I am. I'm right here, focusing. And so bring that focus to those moments where you feel really mixed up and see if that makes a difference, if you're able to have a different experience of something. So remember, it's very much like how we listen, how we show up. And so one of the patterns is breaking the pattern of not being very present. And that's when the trance comes in, and that's when you get mixed up. So let's try to do it a different way and notice that, and then ground or come into a situation being grounded and start practicing that in all your relationships in every part of your day. So there's the concept of the relationship mirror, right? That when we're in our relationships, there's actually a mirror back to ourselves of how we're showing up. There's also that thought of transference that sometimes when we're with certain people, we start feeling something about ourselves. And we're like, I don't feel like that about myself. Is that something about the other person, right? So it's that relationship mirror, how we learn in relationships. We really do learn a lot in relationships if we can stay present and not go back into our story. Oh, that person affects me like this. I feel thrown off like that. So this is all about emotional safety, right? And we all want to feel safe in our interactions with people. So we might do a lot to help ourselves feel safe, like um, focus on the other person, go right into our caretaking role. Have you ever noticed that when you have a party or a gathering or family or friends over for something, that people take on certain roles as soon as they walk in the door? And which one do you take on? And which one are you like, that's a comfortable role for me to see that person in that role, or that's an uncomfortable role? So sometimes there's the helper, right? The helper comes in and they automatically know what they're going to be doing when they show up at your house. They're going to be helping you. And that's safety, right? They're creating safety for themselves in that interaction. And so you might look at how have I interacted in the mirror that I have around all the people that I know, and how am I showing up on the regular. Some of this might be to hide yourself, to avoid. And like, what if that person came in and you're like, great, I'm going to go socialize if you've got, the food handled, and you took a different role than your helping role or your hosting role just for a little bit. What would that feel like? And what if you actually really collaborate with that person and feel like, wow, that person just lifted up the party and my energy, because now I feel like I got through that part of getting everyone settled and comfortable. Or you might notice, oh, there's some people in the party that are automatically just relaxing and talking amongst themselves. They're easy in that role. And that's also fine, right? But noticing everybody around you and what it brings up for you, and what you have to give yourself to be more self-focused first before giving your energy away to everyone else. Just being very conscious about how do you do that, and all the different ways that you might do that or occupy yourself. So this is ways that we start observing ourselves and observing that relationships are a mirror to a lot of learning that we can do about ourselves. And we don't always want to be in learning, right? We don't always want to be observing and trying to figure stuff out and analyzing. So you might want to find those times and those people and those activities that you do, that you don't get to be thinking about all the mirroring, that you just get to be yourself. And that could be the moments that you take in the morning to exercise, or maybe there's different hobbies that you do that you are not really that activated at all. And it's the practice of going back and forth, observing what's going on, and then coming into, can I relax and be more comfortable and remind myself that I know myself and I know these parts of myself, and I'm starting to integrate these parts of myself. And I'm even able to talk about them to some people so that people understand me better, and I feel understood, and I feel understood by myself. That's a really important thought. Do you understand yourself well enough to calm yourself down, to explain how and why you do things, to break out of the habit of just the projection stories that go back and forth in that ego dance that sometimes we do with people. So there's some food for thoughts about this section about unplugging from somebody and focusing more on yourself. So the question is in this next section, which is really identifying the capacity of yourself and another person, what's your work to stay clear with yourself, is the exercise of who is sitting across the table from you. And it's not in being in a perception of a codependent analysis, which is tuning in, cueing into only them, figuring out what they need, what they want, how you can help them, being in your caretaker role. But it's really just staying very much with yourself and in the present, going into active listening, real active listening. Like, what are they actually saying? Who are they? As if you're doing a study, an anthropological study on people and the different types of people, and just really being open to this person and being present with them and trying not to go into your roles. So what happens if a feeling comes up? So if a feeling comes up, you might want to take a minute to like go into reflection. What's happening? Am I uncomfortable? How can I make myself more comfortable? These are sort of voices that go on in our head when we're in interaction with people. And then going back to focusing on, can you actually hear what they're saying? So it's really important for you to keep track of this dance of being in someone else's space and then coming back into your own space, and not being overmeshed in their space and not even cued into your space. And because sometimes that is the avoidance of the self. So we want to watch that dance when we're starting to practice being integrated when we are with people and actually solid self. So this is a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't mean if you don't have the skill set yet that you can't develop it, because you can. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're on a journey of self-discovery and trying to have better communication and better insight so that you can have stronger relationships, ones that really feed you instead of you feeling like you're invisible and that you don't matter. So the question could be like, could you interact with this person without having your shadow involved? So when your shadow is involved, it's projecting all sorts of stuff onto that person and then onto you. And maybe it's even looking at the parts of them that are difficult instead of staying focused on yourself. So can you have an interaction with a person without having your shadow involved? And if it does get involved, can you talk about it? Do you know what it means? Do you know why you're doing that? Do you know why there's certain people that really provoke you? It's really important to think about that question. And a lot of times in my groups, people learn from each other by the feelings that come up from other people talking about things. And usually, if it bothers them, it's something about doing it's something to do with them. So, oftentimes, when people have curiosities about people or questions, I always ask the person who's asking the question to answer it themselves because it's usually a question they have for themselves. So, remember, your work to figure out the shadow is important because the shadow, when it's involved, when you involve it in another person, then that's when you get all mixed up. So we're back to the concept of what can you expect from this person who's sitting across from you? And where and what is your own self regulation? So that's actually knowing your own thoughts and feelings, knowing yourself. This is the parts of myself I can count on. This is the part of me that's hearing. This is the part of me that's actually not really understanding what's being said and going from there in your investigation. So, self regulation, it's a big concept. And are you doing it and how? And do you understand it to regulate yourself, to know what mood's coming up, what feelings are coming up, where your attitude is, how you're addressing something? Are you present? Are you not? So there's a lot of questions that go on in self-regulation so that you know what to do. So if you're triggered, it's an opportunity for you to figure out, how am I going to get myself to feel safe? Or how am I going to bring this trigger to safety? And it might take a while to figure this out, but it is about reminding yourself that you're safe. But what if you've never been safe in your life or never really felt safe or confident in intimate situations or situations that you have to confront somebody about something, and it's uncomfortable? So that's the place you're going to be working, right? And work doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't happen in a workshop. It happens by practicing and keeping these concepts alive in yourself, and just continue to check in of, what do you actually expect from this person, and what do you need from yourself, and how can you come back to yourself and have dialogues about this? So if you felt unseen in your childhood, or that you didn't matter, or that you weren't valued, or the only way that you could actually show up in a situation was to fix the situation or to be in charge of the situation, then your relationship with that part of yourself is going to be really important. It's going to be the almost parent child within yourself that's going to help heal that. What do you need? You're in this situation again where you're overwhelmed. I need to slow down. I need to step back. I need not to talk, talking too much. That's the kind of dialogue that you will be having. That's you connecting with you. And that is going to help you heal. So I noticed and listened to a really interesting podcast by a very seasoned and um, old theorist, uh, that was a developmental attachment theorist, Windicott, and this gave me a lot of insight about attachment and how we might enmesh with people and not know ourselves. So relationships help us learn about ourselves. When Windicott said that when a baby is born, there isn't really a baby. There is a baby who is in relationship with a person. And that's the unit, right? And that's how the baby discovers that they are a being, is because they're connecting with somebody, and that person is responding to them. And so that's That's how we learn attachment, right? Is we are connecting with this person and they're telling us kind of who we are. So when we're in other relationships, if we don't have a center or a concept of self, then we're actually believing everything that they say about us. And we're taking all of those feelings that we feel that's coming from that other person as our reality. And when we have a deep sense of ourselves, then we actually have an interaction that is more solid than just a projection or a reflection, right? So you can love someone a lot more if you love yourself. You can see someone a lot more if you can see yourself. And if you can figure out how to do that, you're breaking from that enmeshed sort of parent child feeling to I'm a whole person and I'm dealing with this person. If they're not a whole person, that's okay because I am, and I can not take them in as trying to help them discover who they are, but I can stay being myself and just um, having a lot of boundaries around the places where I'm dealing with this person that might not feel so integrated. And then you'll be able to tell the difference. Oh, sounds so challenging, right? But it's really not, because it's a practice of being with yourself first and understanding and knowing yourself. And then in your interaction, becoming clear of you're always there. So, and this is a lifelong journey of when you've had a background that develops some codependent, strong tendencies, that this is a journey of practicing, having another way of engaging with someone instead of in the sacrificing of yourself. So let me see if there's anything else I want to tell you today. So this is just the ongoing practice of being in relationships, and developing deeper intimacy is developing deeper intimacy with yourself. So it's sort of a parallel process. The deeper you get, the deeper you get to go. The deeper you know yourself, the more that you get to be yourself. And the more that you get to analyze like areas in your life that are difficult for you to be yourself, or when your anxiety and other patterns come up, and then you can help yourself. So remember that the biggest thing that I feel like I want you to hold on to is, if you're feeling thrown off and mixed up, remember, understand some of your experiences in your childhood. Which ones do you have to work on and integrate more so they're more a part of you and you can understand them instead of them being an injury to you that stops you from showing up? And then your shadow, like, do you understand all your parts of yourself and how you work with them and deal with them? That will help people get to know you better and understand you better. And then boundaries. Can you lead your triggers to safety? Can you have boundaries that take care of yourself and protect yourself? Those are all really, really important questions in codependency and healing from codependency. So it's a journey. Be patient. Keep checking in with people who help you, that help you see yourself, and getting into your own healing, as if it's, and it is, your biggest mission in life, is to really evolve. And it's all up to you on how you do that. So I'm glad that I'm able to share some of these ideas. I hope they're helpful, and I welcome your feedback.